Before we got into the studio to film today's video, I got off a phone call with the head of YouTube analytics, and they told me if we get 1,000 likes on today's show, the Eagles are going to lose the Super Bowl. The phone call was with my mother, who is the head of YouTube analytics. So if you want the Eagles to lose the Super Bowl, hit that thumbs up icon and like this video right now. Welcome into New York Giants Now by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Marshall Green. Give me a follow over on Twitter at @MarshallGreen_. We have a loaded show coming up. At the end of the show, we have an exclusive interview with Michael Strahan at Radio Rose. Some of the peeps from Chat Sports are at the Super Bowl, and they sat down with big number 92, the Hall of Famer. They asked him about Brian Daboll, Joe Judge, Daniel Jones, and his Super Bowl. We will show that video at the end of the show, but we have a bunch of rumors to talk about. Kyle Pitts and some juicy ones around some former Giants like Evan Engram and Justin Pugh. And we're going to go back to our new segment on the show, as we like to call it, our rumor meter. And we have decided our rumor meter icon is the hard hat, the Giants hard hat. If you tuned in at all during the season, you knew it was my thing to wear a Giants hard hat for our live streams on Sunday. So we like to put a scale of believability on these rumors. Like 0 hard hats, fake news. Like would the Patriots beat the Giants in Super Bowl 42? Fake news, 0 hard hats. 1 hard hat, small shred of truth. 2 hard hats, people are talking. 3 hard hats, pretty likely. And 4 hard hats are, it's elite, it's happening, as in you can't spell elite without Eli. We're going to start with Kyle Pitts trade rumors, and I'm going to give that just 1 hard hat, not that much truth to it. Because Sports Talk Atlanta reported earlier this month that multiple teams called about a Kyle Pitts trade once their season ended. But UStadium also reported that the Falcons had no interest in trading Pitts. But I do think it's fair to say that Pitts has not been used right in Atlanta, and it has not gone well for him in his first couple of seasons in the NFL. While I don't think that a Kyle Pitts trade will happen this offseason, I do believe a Kyle Pitts trade could happen next offseason. If you go 3 years in the NFL, after being a very high pick like Kyle Pitts was, they may try to move on from you and try to recoup some of that draft capital that they spent on you. Because I can tell you this much. There's 31 other teams in the NFL that would absolutely love to have Kyle Pitts on their roster. And if these trade rumors are true and they're getting calls on them, even if they don't want to trade him, I think the Giants should call them because the Giants could use an athletic receiving tight end. And I think if you get to keep Mike Kafka, if he doesn't become the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, Kyle Pitts and a Mike Kafka, Brian Daboll offense would do some serious damage. He hasn't been a total bust, I would say, in his first 2 seasons, but he has not lived up to the hype as a guy that we thought was going to be a generational, game-changing tight end in the NFL. In 27 games played in the first 2 years of his career, 96 receptions, over almost 1,300 yards, 14.4 yards per catch, and 3 touchdowns. He just really hasn't produced like a lot of us thought he would, whether that's because of the bad quarterback play there, the offense, the way he's being used. There's a number of things you could blame it on, but I do know this. Kyle Pitts is an absolute special talent. He is one of the most gifted, if not the most gifted tight end in the National Football League, and he can play every single position. He can play wide receiver, he can play tight end, he can line up in the slot, he can even catch the ball out of the backfield. He was an absolute dog at Florida. He's a beast in the red zone, an area Atlanta has not been successful targeting him in, but I do believe with the right quarterback and the right coordinator, we could have Kyle Pitts being one of the best tight ends in the NFL. So I want to ask you guys this. Should the Giants trade for Kyle Pitts? I think it might be a little bit too early, as in his career. Not sure they would trade him after 2 seasons. But next year, if he struggles again, he'll definitely be on the trade block. Should they do it? Type T for trade, type P for pass. We're going to get to that Strahan interview coming up here in a second. But first, I want to give a huge shout out to today's sponsor, and that is Fume. Go to tryfume.com/chatsports because today's Giants Now is sponsored by Fume. We all have bad habits, and we certainly know how hard they can be to kick those bad habits. Our sponsor, Fume, is on a mission to accelerate humanity's breakup from the bad habits that consume far too many of us. Fume is a natural diffusive device that uses plants and behavioral science to help you trade out your negative habit for a positive one. I didn't expect much out of Fume when I got it, but the minty sensation is really powerful. Fume, it's not a vape. It's a non-electronic device designed to transform your negative habits. The easiest way to stop a bad habit is to switch to a positive one, and Fume is designed perfectly to do just that. Head to tryfume.com/chatsports and use code chatsports to save 10% off when you get the Journey Pack today. That's tryfum.com/chatsports and use code chatsports to save an additional 10% off your order today. There's 3 unique flavors in the Journey Pack: crisp mint, maple pepper, and white cranberry. That's tryfum.com/chatsports. Use code chatsports for 10% off the Journey Pack today. Next rumor we're talking about in today's show surrounds a one-time New York Giant. What's the saying? Once a Giant, always a Giant. Well, sounds like Evan Engram may want to come back. He tweeted out yesterday in quotes, and this is a quote, "Damn, I love New York." And I think it's pretty interesting because he is going to be a free agent after just 1 year in Jacksonville. I would assume Jacksonville would want to bring him back because Engram set career highs in catches and yards this year with the Jaguars. Look, a couple tight ends we've talked about back-to-back. I like Daniel Bellinger. I don't know if he's a tight end 1 for the rest of his career. I think he'd better be suited as a tight end 2. And I'm more of a receiving threat at tight end 1 because Belly is such a great blocker. I'm not totally against the idea of Evan Engram. Give my thoughts here in a little bit. But let's review what he did this year for the Jaguars as he shifted over from the NFC to the AFC after being a first-round pick for Big Blue. 73 catches, career high. 766 yards, a career high. Had average yards per catch at 10.5. 4 touchdowns. But it's that bottom number that I'm still worried about. He had 5 drops this year. You know, the drops weren't as costly, but he just does not have the best hands. And when you play a position like tight end, where you have to catch the football, you have to be good at catching it. And I would not say Evan Engram is that. I'm glad he turned it around in Jacksonville, but I'm not interested in bringing Evan Engram back to the New York Football Giants. I gave it one hard hat because I do believe the Giants could use another athletic receiving tight end. If he wanted to come back on a 1-year, very team-friendly deal, sure, I'd open the door for him, but I don't think that's what he's looking for, and I'm not necessarily sure that's what the Giants are looking for in their next tight end. I'm cool on Evan Engram. I don't hate him, don't have any hard feelings against him, but I just think his time in New York wearing Big Blue has kind of passed up already. Should the Giants re-sign him, though? Show's not all about me. I want to hear from the audience. I want to hear from the real ones out there because you guys educate me more than a lot than you think. I go down and read the comments every single day, and I like to take the pulse of the real ones watching. So should the Giants re-sign Evan Engram? Why for yes and for no? And I'll let you know this much. With NFL free agency just around the corner and the NFL draft, it will be here before you know it. We are your one-stop shop for all things Giants all off-season long. Giants videos every single day. We go live every single Monday. We're the most interactive YouTube channel out there that covers the Giants. We do it for you guys. Go down right now, hit that big red sub button, and thank you for getting us to over 24,000 subs. Last rumor on today's show before we get to that Strahan interview, Justin Pugh also maybe wants to be a Giant again. He was asked on Twitter about playing for the Jets. A guy tweeted him and said, "Yo, Pugh, Jets need more offensive line help, you down?" And he said, "I got to check in with my New York Giants first." Oh, what do we know? A lot of old faces trying to come back to familiar parts of town. Justin Pugh is coming off a torn ACL and is a free agent. So if he wanted to sign with the Giants and there was mutual interest there, he could. And the Giants need to improve their offensive line and specifically the interior offensive line. But Justin Pugh's not the same guy that he was when he was last with New York or even previously with the Arizona Cardinals. Justin Pugh is washed, and it's not his fault. He's dealt with a lot of injuries. He's 32, 33 years old, and when you're that old and you've had injuries stack up at the NFL at a taxing position like interior offensive line, your career is not going to be that long. He's made a lot of money. He's had a good career. I'm just not sure it should continue with the New York Football Giants. I gave it 2 hard hats because I believe he could come back as a depth piece. Because when you look at this Giants offensive line right now, they still need more interior offensive line help because you got guys like Nick Gates, who's probably going to be a free agent. You got guys like John Feliciano, who's probably going to be a free agent. You could push that across, Rolly. When you look at this Giants offensive line depth chart, you got some guys that aren't going to probably be here. John Feliciano might, Nick Gates might, but do we really want to roll with a lot of inexperience at the interior offensive line? I like Joshua Zudu. I like Marcus McKeithen. Both those guys got hurt last year. At the very least, Pugh could be brought in to compete for a roster spot on this team. I'd give it 2 hard hats. People are talking. Small shredded truth. I could see it, but I don't think it'll ever be to be a starter on this team anymore. We appreciate everybody tuning in, and for everybody that's stuck around, because we like to reward the real ones when we get this far in the video. I want to let you guys know, we said it off the top, that Chat Sports, our Eagles and Chiefs channels, and the people that run those shows are at the Super Bowl, and they got to sit down with Michael Strahan and ask him about some pretty cool stuff. But before we get to the video, I want to get the comment section going. Go down in the comments and spam 92. Type those 92s in the comments. Show our guy, Michael Strahan, some love down in the comment section. Without further ado, here are those videos from Radio Row.
I wanted to ask you about the Giants and the job that Brian Dable did in year 1. If you look at that roster, pretty much the same team that Joe Judge had, and he had far more success. What do you think about the future direction of the Giants organization led by him? He's got some Bill Parcells type of qualities, and what do you think about the job he did year 1?
I think Dable was fantastic. To take a roster, like you said, that Judge had and really make it to the playoffs, win one playoff game, the first round of the playoffs, is really unexpected. I think that's because the same guys had a coach that they felt respected them as players, and you want to play for someone like that. I think Judge just had a different way that he went about it. And Dable came in as Brian Dable. He didn't come in as someone trying to be another coach who he had learned to coach under. And I think that's important. And the players understand authenticity. He's an authentic guy. He's a hustling coach. As much as you say Bill Parcells quality, it is kind of like that. He knows how to push you, but he knows how to pull back. He knows how to motivate you. But I don't know, it's just something about him. You look at him, he's this big and he's round, and you go, I want to play for him. I like that.
What would you do with Daniel Jones with a big contract potentially upcoming for him? He made massive strides under Dable this year.
He hasn't had any of the same coordinators for 2 years in a row forever. Different head coaches, different everything. So I thought what he did last year was fantastic. He put the team on his back at times when he needed to. And I think you have to keep Daniel Jones. You have to pay Daniel Jones. That's just the way football works right now. And the hardest position to fill is quarterback. So if you don't keep him, somebody else will. And we'll get him. And then where do you start there? What's your next move? There's no guarantee anyone else is going to be great. So I think that Daniel did enough to earn himself a great contract there in New York. I think he had the right temperament. I didn't think I'd meet anybody or see anybody who's more quiet than Eli Manningham when they played. And Daniel Jones has accomplished that. He's done that.
What was the one intangible trait that made your Super Bowl team champions?
Teamwork. We really had a deal not to let each other down. I think we had a responsibility, without even talking about it, that we were responsible for each other and not just for, and we could show that responsibility for our performance. So that was the difference with our team. I think that we learned along the way is we are a team. We can't win individually. And if we win, enough credit for everybody. If you lose, nobody wants to be the blame. So let's keep winning so we all can celebrate it.
Shout out to Michael Strahan, an all-time Giant. I just love hearing him talk about the New York Football Giants. I love what he said about the 2007 Super Bowl run. And he was right. That was one of the most tight-knit groups in the NFL, and that's why they were able to do special things. I believe they would have won the Super Bowl in 2008 if Plaxico didn't shoot himself, especially if Michael Strahan would have came back. Also, I loved what he said about Daniel Jones, and I agree. Jones has earned the right to get that second contract. I also loved what he said about Brian Dable. Thought it was pretty funny when he said he was short and round. But good stuff there for Michael Strahan. We are proud and happy he got to sit down with Chat Sports. We're glad we get you guys that interview. Long show today, but a lot of information we had to get to you guys. Another way you could stay up to date is by giving me a follow on Twitter @MarshallGreen_.